Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Academy of Engineering's annual conference. My name is Josh Leon. I'm one of the co-chairs, along with Dr. John Newhook, who's sitting in the front there, our Dean of Engineering here at Dalhousie. And I'd like to welcome you to Dalhousie University and to the engineering campus, what used to be Nova Scotia Tech, Technical University in Nova Scotia, and now Dalhousie. So welcome. I hope it's a great day for everyone, and I hope you get to enjoy our wonderful city. Dalhousie University acknowledges that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and pays respect to the Indigenous knowledge held by the Mi'kmaq people and to the wisdom of their elders and past and present. The Mi'kmaq people signed peace and friendship treaties with the Crown, and Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 recognizes and affirms Aboriginal and treaty rights. We are all treaty people. Dalhousie University also acknowledges the histories and contributions and legacies of the African Nova Scotians who have been here for over 400 years. So my first duty, I guess, is to introduce Andy Fillmore. He is the Member of Parliament for Halifax. He's a city planner and with a long history at Dalhousie. He was director of our planning program here at Dal. While serving in Parliament, Andy has been devoted to making Canada's communities healthy and sustainable spaces in which to live and work and play, supporting innovation, improving relationships with Indigenous peoples, and protecting the environment. In 2019, he was named Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities. Prior to his election in 2015, Andy spent 20 years as an urban planner and community builder in the private, public, and academic sectors. Andy also served as director and associate professor at the Dalhousie University School of Planning. He is a graduate of Dalhousie University and Harvard University, and his father taught me math. So Andy, I welcome you to the podium.
That's very kind. Thank you. Thanks so much, Josh. I appreciate that very much. It's nice to be with you all today. Bonjour tout le monde. More accurately, I want to say thank you for having me here. I'm glad to welcome all of you, but it's also nice of you to welcome me. I'm Andy. I'm the Member of Parliament here in Halifax, as Josh said. My job is to give you this welcome and then get out of the way so that you can have the important conversations that the people that know what they're talking about should have those conversations in this field. And although I'm deeply interested, I can't contribute at the level that you will. But I do want to thank my friends here at Dalhousie for this warm welcome, particularly Josh and John for having me here this morning. It will be hard to find a better host team for your AGM with the theme of engineering and the blue economy than the team here at Dalhousie. After all, Dal is home to one of the finest engineering schools in the country and in the world, one of the best ocean schools in the country, and I'm sure that there are probably some Dal alumni in the room today that would agree with that statement. I'm a proud TONS graduate myself, as you've heard Josh say, and I have to say I want to talk up Dal a little bit. I look back on my time here with immense gratitude for helping to make me the person that I am today, and I look back with some pride as well for having a small part in the creation of the building that we're sitting in today, back when I was the director of the School of Planning, to socializing the idea, and then later as the MP to helping to find some federal funding to make it all happen. So I guess you'd say I'm a kind of an ambassador for Dalhousie, but also for Halifax. So I'm extending a warm welcome to those who are visiting from away. As you can see, we was speaking with some people in the foyer. We have a remarkable urban renaissance underway in our city. And although after we had 2 difficult years of restaurant closures, like much of the country did, our city is back. Construction never stopped; it continued to pace. But now the city is back. The sidewalks are full. The restaurants are full. I hope you get out there and have a wonderful time, and of course that you spend some money while you're here. We would appreciate that very much. Now, as our province's license plate will tell you, Nova Scotia is known as Canada's ocean playground, and that certainly is true this time of year. But more and more, we're becoming known in the 21st century as Canada's ocean workshop. And thanks to the extraordinary ocean researchers and ocean organizations that have truly put our province on the leading edge of ocean discovery, ocean innovation, and sustainability. You'll be hearing about those organizations. If I start to name them, I'm going to forget somebody, so I'm not going to name them all. Nice to see you, Melanie. So I almost started to name them, and I've got to stop myself. Anyway, you'll have great conversations with folks while you're here. This work is a natural extension of our historical identity as a coastal people in Nova Scotia, a people whose livelihoods have and personal stories have been shaped entirely by the ocean. In fact, the coat of arms for the city has beneath it "E Mari Mercies," which is wealth from the sea. That is an indication of how closely tied our community is to the ocean. Now, over the course of that history, we've learned about the opportunities and the risks associated with our reliance on these beautiful deep blue waters that surround us. And today, those learnings inform the work that we're collectively undertaking to protect our oceans. This is at a time when we understand that the care of our oceans is essential to our future prosperity as it has ever been. And that's because this natural resource that has sustained our people for generations today also poses a grave threat. Climate change is leading us to sea level rise and more extreme weather events that pose serious threats of damage and danger to our coasts. I've had the dubious privilege of touring coastal communities around Halifax and around the province after extreme weather events, and these communities have in many cases been devastated. The infrastructure has been devastated, homes, wharfage, and of course the cost of replacing and mitigating this infrastructure has been and will continue to be enormous. So it's clear that climate change is an existential threat that we must act together to defend against and mitigate. But our ocean is not just posing a threat, it is also facing grave threats. Plastic waste, ocean acidification, and serious new questions are being raised about the ocean's role to be a carbon sink and how that functions. So the message there is that we must protect and sustain our oceans so that our oceans can protect and sustain us. And that's where those of you that are here today come in. The fight against climate change needs engineers. Your profession is playing an instrumental role in protecting our communities from the ravages of a changing climate. You're building the infrastructure today that we need to adapt our world so that we can face what's to come. To ensure our coastal cities and towns, our key industries, our transportation networks can withstand the strain that will be put upon them as we work fervently to reduce emissions and transition to a low carbon economy. So I want to thank each of you for the work that you have done. I want to thank each of you for the work that you will do as engineers to quite literally safeguard our future on the front lines of climate change, sea level rise, and oceans health. So I look forward with great interest, a great investment, in fact, in hearing the outcomes of your work together while you're in Halifax, studying engineering and the blue economy. And I wish each of you all the best as you put your abilities to work in service of Canadians. Enjoy Halifax. I hope you can make time to see the city that we are all so very dearly proud of. Thank you so much and good work ahead.
Thank you very much, Andy. Next, we have Dr. Azkapour. He has over 30 years of diversified technical business and operations experience in the oil and gas industry, marked by providing strong leadership in the president of the Petroleum Technology Alliance of Canada. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Azkapour. The mic.
Thank you, Josh. Hello. I would like to welcome everyone to the Canadian Academy of Engineering the Blue Ocean Economy Conference, and to thank our hosts here at Dalhousie, John and Josh, the University Faculty of Engineering for the fantastic program that they have put together, the great facility, and superb support. Without your support and work, we wouldn't be here today. We are so lucky to hold this conference in beautiful Halifax, a truly relevant location to talk about the fascinating topic of the ocean economy. And it's great that finally, after 2 years, and actually more than 2 years, we can now have an in-person events again going on. The history of the conference and the induction dinner goes back to the celebration of the Centennial Engineering in 1987, where it was 35 years ago, where a group of 45 prominent Canadian engineers were invited to become founding fellows of the Canadian Academy. And essentially, they had 2 goals. And these are the 2 goals that were established back then, and we are continuing on it. The first one is to contribute to the prosperity of our country and the well-being of all Canadians through leadership in the responsible and sustainable application of scientific and engineering knowledge, and provide strategic advice to decision makers while helping shape the future of engineering. And the second part was to recognize and honor outstanding engineering achievements and service to the profession. So today, this morning, we are going to cover the first part. In the evening, we will cover the second part. So for many years, the induction dinner and conference, of course, have aimed to achieve both of these goals. Today, we have planned an exciting event to address a very important topic, the blue ocean economy. We also plan to discuss the sustainability of the many ocean economy opportunities. And they actually cover that really well in terms of how important it is to focus on the sustainability. The economic benefit of the world's ocean are very clear. By far, the majority of global trade is moving by shipping. Currently, significant oil and gas production comes from offshore oil and gas reservoirs. In Canada, the most recent project, Bay du Nord, will be the first project to move the offshore oil industry into such deep waters. It's going to be over 1 kilometer, huge pressure, and challenging in terms of engineering. Ocean is the source of both established industries fundamental to human civilization, such as fisheries and shipbuilding, and emerging industries like deep sea mining and undersea autonomous vehicle. All of these provided that our activities are sustainable. The ocean can help to feed the planet, provide clean energy and jobs. Above all, with future technologies, we will be able to go where none has gone before. It's truly a new frontier. The ocean is probably the biggest economic frontier right now, and Canada has the longest coastline of any country in the world. Think of it. We have a population that is less than 1% of the world population, and we have the lion's share of the world coastline. Canada's methane hydrate resources offshore Vancouver Island alone are immense in size. The size is measured as much as 28,000 TCF. So let's put this in perspective. The global natural gas reserves is only 1/4 of the size of what we have off coast Vancouver. The possibilities are endless with these massive untapped resources. And we are not just talking about gas, we are talking about minerals, salt, sand, gravel, copper, nickel, iron, cobalt, and many more. The ocean also plays a critical role in removing carbon from the atmosphere and providing oxygen. From climate change adaptation to ecosystem services, the blue ocean economy has a profound impact on our lives. However, if our activities are not sustainable, not only we will not be able to realize the benefits, we will severely damage the entire planet ecosystem. Given the fact that there are under-realized ocean resources, as what I mentioned, gas hydrates, that currently cannot be exploited due to lack of technology, scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs play pivotal roles in converting these under-realized resources into wealth for Canada through developing, commercializing, and deploying emerging technologies. Today, you will have a chance to hear from leading experts as they dive into exciting area of Canadian engineering, Canada's unparalleled ocean resources and maritime economy. The focus of blue ocean economy incorporates sustainable development, and you mentioned climate change, and the application of leading technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning, and etc. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the conference co-chairs, Dean John Newhook and Professor Josh Leon, as well as organizing committee consisting of Jim Hanlon, Professor Bing Chen, and Professor Wegui and Robert Krahal. I would like to mention that Wei and Bing became fellows this year, so congratulations. Furthermore, I would like to express my great appreciation to Christine Helm, along with Chris France, Kayla Beam, and Emmanuel Nako. Without those help, this would not have been possible again. We have invited distinguished speakers to cover different perspectives, and that would be to lead discussion on some of the great risks and engineering challenges associated with the ocean economy, as well as on energy development and climate change, and collaboration, and of course, next step. Bernard Shaw once said that if I have an apple and if you have an apple and we share, at the end, each of us are going to have only one apple. If you have an idea and I have an idea, if we share, at the end, we are going to have two ideas. I actually want to revise that, saying you're going to have more than two ideas, because those two ideas, then you can create a hybrid ideas and so on. So it would be many, many ideas. So what this conference is doing is connecting people, projects, ideas, technologies, etc. It's a great opportunity for collaboration and sharing ideas. Today, you will have the opportunity to meet your old friends and new fellows, to be inspired, to learn about new technologies and initiatives, and experience aha moments, and to discover opportunities for collaboration and perhaps create new hybrid ideas or technologies. I'm very pleased with the prospect of having a new CAE section in Atlantic Canada. Having been the chair of the Calgary and Western section for many years, I know this can be a catalyst for the continuous sharing of knowledge, ideas, etc., which could be about the blue ocean economy or any other topics that you would desire. If you are interested in joining this new section or are interested in my experience related to Western chapter, please approach me. I really appreciate if we can get this section going. I would like to thank our sponsors and thank the distinguished presenters And by the way, all of you for your active participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahil. It's now my pleasure to introduce Catherine Costanzas, the President-elect of the Canadian Academy of Engineering. Catherine is CEO of Morrison Hirschfield Group, one of Canada's largest engineering consultancies. She's had a long career in work as a volunteer leader, both as a leader of provincial engineering body and as the national engineering body. And Catherine has contributed a tremendous amount to engineering in Canada. She has tremendous skills as a natural leader, and she's contributed as a business volunteer, both in business and volunteer governance. So thank you for coming to speak today, Catherine. I'll hand you a microphone.
Oh, hello, everyone. I'm a little embarrassed about that picture. I have provided a more recent one, but somehow, if you've been involved for so long, they just keep that original one. But anyhow, well, fellow colleagues, chers collègues, je suis très honorée d'être ici aujourd'hui comme la présidente élue de l'Académie. I'm very pleased to be here today and to be back in beautiful Halifax and Nova Scotia. I'm extremely honored and privileged to be able to serve my profession and Canada as a board member and as president-elect of the Canadian Academy of Engineering. I have a passion for engineering, having worked in it and volunteered in it continuously for over 30 years. Since joining the board, I've been impressed with all whom I've interacted with. My fellow board members, our extremely capable and productive CEO, Robert Crawhill, and the talented team and the dedicated volunteers. Our current past president, Dr. Yves Beauchamp, who's here today, has provided excellent leadership over the last 2 years, so thank you for that. And I wish our current president, Sohail Asgarpour, all the best. As engineers, we can directly enhance the well-being of society in the critical work that we do. The world is facing pressing challenges on many fronts, including climate change, clean water, clean and affordable energy, good health and infrastructure needs, all amid wide disparities in standards of living and the threat of political instability. We as engineers are in the enviable position that a public otherwise worried about the future can trust us as professionals who put the public welfare above all else. Je crois que l'Académie est plus relevant, plus important que jamais. I believe that CAE is more relevant than ever. It is the ideal vehicle to facilitate collective action to advance important problems and deal with the pressing issues facing Canada and our planet. By leveraging the knowledge and capabilities of the over 800 fellows, the Academy provides a remarkable and powerful opportunity to fulfill our mandate and serve the nation in matters of engineering concern for the benefit of Canadians. I look forward to the next 6 years as President-elect, then President and past President to help advance that work. The conference topic today is a very important one, and I thank our hosts, the co-chairs of this conference, Dr. Josh Leon and Dr. John Newhook, and the organizing team. Thank you also to the moderators and speakers today. I would like to also thank one of the board members that just stepped down who are not with us today, Dr. Eddie Isaacs. Eddie was the Academy's president and served on the executive committee. He chaired important committees, including the nominating committee and the Future of Engineering Committee, which is responsible for the approval and oversight of the Academy programs. On behalf of the board and the fellows, I thank Eddie for his dedication, his exemplary service, and his significant contributions to the Academy in Canada. Tonight, we're going to be inducting 34 of the new fellows, and I offer congratulations to those of you that are here today. You're being honored and recognized for outstanding engineering achievements and service to the profession. Now that you will be a fellow as of tonight, please continue that service by supporting and participating in the important work the Academy is undertaking for Canada. Currently, there are 6 programs underway, which consist of a series of activities that include seminars, workshops, conferences, task force, and technical reports. The programs are Net Zero Climate Change, Digital Transformation, National Infrastructure, Waste Reduction and Recycling, Pandemic Preparedness, and Aquatic Environments, Ocean and Freshwater Systems. Today, this conference is part of that 6th program. The details of the programs are on the Academy's website, so I invite you to look at them. And please support one of these programs. You don't have to be an expert in the field. And now we're going to move on to our conference. I hope you all enjoy it. I know you will. And for those of you that are going to be inducted tonight, I look forward to seeing you. Profitez de la conférence et rendez-vous ce soir. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Catherine. I think we got about a 5-minute break before the next panel starts, and John will be up, so you can stretch your legs for a couple minutes. And thanks to all of our speakers. I think we're off to a great start. How it works. No, it doesn't look fine.
Let's unplug the second. Oh, if you like, you can do it from the keyboard.
Yeah, whichever you like. It does work. It just doesn't work from where I'm sitting. Oh, it is working.
Yeah, we can't do the two.
That's fine. I'll click through to my computer.
Okay, and we'll leave you with this.
Yeah, you can have it.
You said you can.
On. Hi.
So you'll put my presentation on. and I'll
He
control
will put it
somebody.
on between. So John's going to speak, introduce everybody,
Okay.
and then between that, we're just going to come up, pull it up on the computer for you, and then everything should be ready to go. Okay. You're welcome.
Good. Yeah, I can turn. Yeah, let's just put that up. Yeah. Okay, I guess one of the duties of the co-host is to keep us all on time, so we'll start up again. Just a couple quick housekeeping items. The washrooms are actually to the right of this room, so if you go out and around the corner, there's washrooms on this floor. If you want to go out the top, there's washrooms on the next floor. When it is lunchtime, we'll be going up 2 floors to the common area up there. If in the event there is a fire alarm or another
request to leave the building. We simply exit this main door that most of you came in here, and we just go up the street about 50 meters to the parking lot and muster up there, and then we'll decide what to do from there. But hopefully we won't have one of those events today. Thank you to many of the people who contributed to this: Christine and Kyla, Sohail, Rob. Thank you to the other members of the organizing committee. I think Sohail mentioned them. And thank you to my staff, Amanda, Teresa Ann, and Marilyn, who are busy over there, especially mastering the online and keeping some social media around this. Welcome everybody to Sexton campus. It's the engineering campus. It was founded in 1907. So this marks our 115th year of delivering engineering education here in Nova Scotia. We're very proud of that. It's interesting, it was founded because at the time the booming industry in Nova Scotia was mining, coal mining, and steel production. So they needed they needed to graduate engineers in Nova Scotia for that industry. Of course, that industry has changed a lot in the past 115 years, but now we have a booming ocean technology sector in Nova Scotia, and we need engineers and research to help with that economy. If I look at our own faculty, we have research in the areas of autonomous vehicles, both underwater and surface vehicles, and robotics and platforms to go with it. We do a lot of ocean sensing, especially small miniature microsensors. In the materials area, we have several researchers who work on additive manufacturing related to shipbuilding and other industries, whether it's robotic welding or the production of unique alloys and 3D printing of metals. We have a NSERC Create program currently that's an interdisciplinary marine engineering research and industrial training program. It looks at autonomous marine systems, acoustic, fiber optic, and in situ sensing. It looks at marine electronics and controls, and of course it looks at data analytics related to the marine research. We have a pilot scale decanted water seawater treatment system, for oil spills. And we have researchers who work on tidal energy. We have another group of researchers, I think Sohail was mentioning a lot of the marine traffic. We have researchers who work on marine risk associated with marine traffic and other security and operational considerations and hazard response. We also have the Amera Idea Hub, which is a startup facility for technology companies, and you'll hear from a couple of those companies later in the program today. I'm thrilled to also be joined by many of our colleagues from Memorial University in Newfoundland. They themselves, of course, have a world-class ocean engineering program, and we collaborate together on many things such as the Ocean Frontier Institute, the Ocean Supercluster, and many other research projects. So together, these Atlantic Canadian universities are well positioned to produce engineers and to provide engineering solution for the blue ocean economy. So now we'll move to the keynotes for this next session. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce our speakers first so that when it's time for them to speak, we'll just call them up. So introducing them, our first speaker will be Dr. Misprint here. Dr. Wendy Watson-Wright, who is the former Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO. Long words. She was the inaugural Chief Executive Officer of the Ocean Frontier Institute, which is headquartered here in Atlantic Canada and is a transdisciplinary research institute whose aim is the safe and sustainable development of ocean frontiers. Our next speaker will be Chris Gugu. He is a proud member of the Wicoma First Nation. Chris is the Chief Operating Officer at Ulnuweg. Since joining Ulnuweg in 2000, he's helped hundreds of Aboriginal entrepreneurs secure loans and access business services. Melanie Nadeau is the Chief Operating Officer for COVE, Centre for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship. An award-winning Canadian businesswoman and trailblazer, Melanie leads and grows organizations by developing strategies to gain market confidence, drive investment, deliver profits, and achieve operational success. She is a resilient executive leader who builds and fosters strong strategic partnerships in her unique combination of technical, business, and political acumen. And our final speaker is Richard Oh, there's Richard. Richard Billard. Richard is Director of Systems Engineering at Irving Shipbuilding, a solution-driven organizational strategist with 20 years of distinguishing contributions in the Royal Canadian Navy and 10 years in industry. So I'll invite each of the speakers up for a presentation, and then hopefully we'll have a few minutes left at the end for the audience to ask some questions of our speakers. So Wendy.
Thank you, John. Great. Again, thank you, John, very much. And thank you especially for the invitation to be here, Josh and John. I really am very honored. So hello, bonjour, Quay. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki and that we are all treaty people. So thank you for that. Today I plan to talk about, assuming this will go forward, or not. Maybe I will use the clicker. So can I use page down or not? I'll have to do that. Okay, all right. This is the plan for the talk today. We will get going here. So a little bit about the ocean and its challenges, and then I'd like to move on, talk a little bit about the UN and the ocean, say a few words about Canada and the blue economy, and this is a blue ocean economy, not hydrogen, and finish with a few thoughts for CAE. But I would ask you to indulge me, and so that I can begin with my usual rant, and that is that we should always refer to the ocean in singular and not plural. Why? Well, first, because there really is only one global interconnected ocean. And then just because various regions of the ocean are named differently does not mean they are separate. And second, and more pragmatically, the singular is more powerful, since we as humans tend to care about and to look after things much more if we know we have only one of them. So I am with the whales on this issue. Now, I think that this graphic depicts well the fact that the ocean covers 71% of the planet. All the land on the Earth could easily fit into international waters alone. And you can see that whereas Canada is the second largest country by land mass, it is tiny compared to the ocean. But we can neither manage nor protect what we don't know. So what do we know about the ocean? Well, we heard a fair amount of it earlier, but the next two slides attempt to outline some of what the ocean does for us. We already know it covers the majority of the Earth's surface, and as you can see here, it provides both social and cultural services. It has cushioned the blow of climate change, and it is decisive for the future of the planet. Worldwide, the ocean also provides critical economic services, as Dr. Askarpour has said. Now, the value of marine activities was estimated by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, at 2.5% of global GDP, or about $1.5 trillion US, with estimates that this is going to double by 2030. Again, you can see on this slide some of what the ocean provides to us from an economic perspective, including many industries. And for the past number of years, interest in what is being called the blue economy has skyrocketed, which is why we're here today. Now, the ocean is a major driver of climate. It operates as a giant thermostat that regulates global temperature. The world's climatic zones are the ocean, determined by the ocean's climatic zones. by the latent heat stored and transferred in the upper few hundred meters of the sea. The ocean's energy storehouse also operates as a giant flywheel, both moderating change and prolonging it once it's begun. So the ocean and climate are inextricably linked. But the global ocean is facing many threats, only some of which are shown on this slide, including overexploitation of resources, habitat destruction, biodiversity loss, invasive species, and pollution of many types. Plastics, of course, being the poster child, but also including chemicals, pharmaceuticals, agricultural runoff, noise, and light, just to name a few. In addition, there are climate change and emission-related stressors, which have been summarized as causing a hot, sour, and breathless ocean, meaning ocean warming, ocean acidification, and loss of oxygen or increased dead zones. Of those, the most concerning to me is ocean warming. Now, the ocean has absorbed 93% of excess heat accumulated in the climate system. It is a crucial regulation role, but the quantity of heat accumulated is, of course, having consequences. The scale of ocean warming is truly staggering, with the numbers so large that it's difficult to comprehend. Last year, the ocean is said to have absorbed heat equivalent to 7 Hiroshima atomic bombs, detonating each second, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That is a lot of heat. And we in Canada are seeing increasing marine heat waves off all 3 of our coasts. One of the major impacts of ocean warming is sea level rise. In combination with sea level rise, we're seeing more extreme weather events everywhere, not just on the coast, along with severe storm surges and flooding, which are of particular concern in Atlantic Canada and southwestern BC. We're also seeing exacerbated coastal erosion, which is of most concern in PEI and BC. Another impact of rising ocean temperature is the altered migration of certain species out of their traditional territories to new ones, as shown here for sockeye salmon and for American lobster, for example. Invasive species are also likely to proliferate in certain areas, and some species may not survive. So let me talk a little bit now about the ocean and the United Nations. I apologize for all the acronyms here, but shown here are the 24 agencies, programs, divisions, and conventions within the UN that play important roles in ocean issues. Now, only 3 have the ocean as their entire focus. Those are, first, the International Maritime Organization, which is the global standard-setting authority for international shipping. Second, the International Seabed Authority, that establishes agreements on the use of the ocean floor and its resources, especially deep sea mining, which is receiving a lot of attention these days. And third is the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, or IOC, of UNESCO, which is responsible for marine scientific research and the transfer of marine technology. IOC is leading the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, and I'll expand upon that in just a moment. Now, I know you've all heard of the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. They were adopted by all UN member states in 2015 as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, of importance is the fact that the ocean has its own SDG, that being SDG 14, Life Underwater. And although it is not included in the Canadian Grand Engineering Challenges, in fact, all 6 challenge areas can map to SDG 14. Sadly, SDG 14 has so far received the least amount of funding by far. Now, coming out of the adoption of the SDGs was the UN Ocean Conference in 2017, which was the first conference to be dedicated to one specific goal, 14. Within its call for action, as you can see here, technology transfer and ocean-based economy were prominent. And the second UN Ocean Conference, in fact, started today in Lisbon, Portugal, after a 2-year delay. Now, in December of the same year as the first UN Ocean Conference, 2017, the UN proclaimed the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development for the 10-year period beginning January 1, 2021. They called upon the IOC to prepare an implementation plan for the decade in consultation with member states and others, and Canada is and has been very active in the UN decade. Now, the vision for the decade is the science we need for the ocean we want. 7 outcomes have been articulated, along with 10 challenges that are shown here. I would say that all of these challenges will need engineering involvement in order to be addressed. The decade also has a working group on technology and innovation that is co-chaired by Justin Manley, who many of you here may know. Now, a bit about Canada and the blue economy. The ocean, of course, is of key importance to Canada's ethos, environment, public health, and economy, and it's an integral component of the culture of many Indigenous peoples and coastal communities. Our coastline, as we've heard, is by far the world's longest. We were the first to pass an Oceans Act, and we have defined ourselves as a fishing and shipping nation since Confederation. But although we pride ourselves on being an ocean nation, Canada's blue economy in 2016 contributed only 1.6% to our GDP, well below the global value mentioned earlier of 2.5%. Now, this was no doubt a factor in Canada's decision to develop a blue economy strategy. Trying again. There we go. Now, there's no one clear definition of the blue economy, but Canada has adopted that of the World Bank, which is, quote, the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs while preserving the health of ocean ecosystems. However, many now believe the blue economy must go beyond preserving the health of the ocean to restoring it. And Canada is one of those. It recognizes that ocean health is directly linked to long-term economic value creation. And Canadians said during consultations on the strategy that the protection and regeneration of the environment should be the top priority of the strategy. In other words, the blue economy must address the 10 challenges noted for the ocean decade. The blue economy sectors that Canada has defined consist of traditional ocean-based industries shown here, as well as emerging industries like technology and biotechnology. And it was heard many times during the consultations that the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Seaway should be included in the blue economy strategy in order to bring prosperity to all of Canada. And I, for one, expect that that will happen. So what does this mean for the CAE and for engineering? Well, first, the sustainable blue economy must be based on restoring ocean health. Second, I think that engineering working hand in hand with sound science will be critical for success. It's time that engineers and engineering are explicitly recognized as being a large part of the solution to both climate change and ocean degradation. Canada is already at the forefront with organizations like the Ocean Supercluster, the Centre for Ocean Ventures and Entrepreneurship, or COVE in the East, and now the Centre for Ocean Applied Sustainable Technologies, or COAST, in the West. And given that the ocean presents some of the greatest engineering challenges on Earth due to the energy it holds, it also presents tremendous opportunities for engineering to become more engaged. Finally, I believe the CAE is well placed to play a leading role with and for Canada in ensuring engineering is given its proper place in both global and national blue economy initiatives. So I believe that Arthur C. Clarke certainly got it right when he said how inappropriate to call this planet Earth when it is quite clearly ocean. And I close with a photo of the small part of the global ocean that inspires me each day to be grateful for the ocean and the opportunities it will continue to provide to us if we look after it. So I thank you for your attention and look forward to our discussion. Walaliak, thank you, merci.
Thank you, Wendy. I see your passion for the ocean has not faded since we last met. Perhaps it's increased. I should also mention we are hybrid today, so we are also showing this online today, and I forgot to welcome the people who are joining us online. Thank you for that. Our next speaker is Chris. I think we're just getting your slides ready, Chris.
Well, Arlen John. Well, Ali Akiskuk. Excuse me. Dan beji dayoch. Ni deluisi. Sakalin kukuwes. Well, Ali Oka. Biggest Leok Iskuk. Bivani mioch. Louis Timen. Achwal dasi beji dayoch. Dan deluisi. Deluidi mek migmari. Achladet dan deluidi mek jibuktuk. Nu de mai gisok. Kidu bisidusi giskuk. Wali giskik. Nakadedem negemoy. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Google, and I welcome everyone to Mi'kmaq today, and to this place, especially in Jibuktuk, Halifax, the Mi'kmaq name for it. And I hear that the Creator is supposed to give us a bright day today, good day today. So I look forward to that later on as well. And for those online as well, thank you for joining us. As John mentioned, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of ULNWIC, which is a 37-year not-for-profit organization serving Atlantic Canadian Indigenous peoples. ULNWIC is the umbrella organization. We're actually four actually organizations, and the ULNWIC Education Center here that you see was launched in 2013 as the ULNWIC Financial Education Center, and in 2020 we dropped the word financial, recognizing its broader mandate in education. The ULNWIC Education Center is a charitable organization, and we also have the ULNWIC Indigenous Communities Foundation, which is a public foundation. And just recently, we launched the Friends of ULNWIC Indigenous Philanthropy, a US-based foundation to do our work. One of the areas for the ULNWIC Education Center we have is called Science Innovation. In the past, you might have heard of Digital Mi'kmaq. Well, now it's Science Innovation. And there's a couple reasons for that, but one of them is specifically that we want to recognize the diversity in our region as well. And we are the Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit in the Atlantic region. So we wanted to recognize that, and of course have a broader mandate, not just the digital, but science innovation in general. So science innovation is we have an enriched STEAM curriculum, which provides interactive digital skills based on curriculum series focus on introducing Indigenous students grades 4 to 12 to the core fundamentals of coding, robotics, big data, artificial intelligence, animation, web development, and 3D modeling. We have a new collegiate program. It's an advanced education program for Indigenous youth in grades 9 to 12 living in Atlantic Canada. And I believe that's in partnership with Dalhousie, if I'm not mistaken. It's an academic enrichment program and offers students the chance to explore topics they're passionate about while forming a community of brilliant peers, mentors, and instructors. They'll see firsthand what industry professionals are doing today and dive into cutting-edge topics in STEAM. We have Math with Dash. It's a combination with the versatile and ever-popular Dash little robots, if you've ever seen them. This hands-on curriculum series focuses on advancing numeracy skills and matching it up with the foundations of learning and robotics and coding. And this is from grades 4 to 6, I believe. And teachers gain valuable skills in effectively utilizing digital devices like Dash while gaining experience in coding and robotics. We also do project-based science, from building garbage sorting robots to exploring fields of applied oceanic science. The project-based science program offers advanced educational opportunities for youth to explore science in a fun and unique way while helping to build skills advancement in STEAM career paths. We also have makerspaces, and when we started in Nova Scotia, we provided each community with a makerspace around about $50,000 in resources. They have their own cameras, video recorders, robots, and all those resources. Establishing or enhancing youth-oriented spaces by providing the educational tools to support ongoing learning and student-led initiatives in community. Just recently, we received a grant from the TD Foundation along with the McKenna Institute of UNB, and that's to do a mobile makerspace in New Brunswick. That is along with the Joint Economic Development Initiative as well, and basically accelerating the access to STEAM education to rural communities in New Brunswick and southern Quebec as well. We also started a little community garden initiative. We built 5 greenhouses in Atlantic Canada, Eel River Bar First Nation in northern New Brunswick, Lennox Island PEI, Miawpukek First Nation in Newfoundland, Annapolis Valley First Nation, and Bottledeck First Nation in Cape Breton. That was a partnership with Dalhousie Agriculture, where we have a license agreement to teach about greenhouse management, not just to the 5 communities, but to all Indigenous communities in Atlantic Canada. And right now we have over 100 participants doing that work right now. We're developing our own educational curriculum for elementary level grades to provide land-based educational opportunities for schools, incorporating Indigenous content, while at the same time addressing the community's food sovereignty issues as well. One of our most exciting recent, if you already haven't heard, was the purchase of Windhorse Farm. Windhorse, for over 150 years, the Wenzel family, the original settlers, resisted damaging the natural essence of the forest. They protected the land for future generations by practicing sustainable forestry and agriculture. The Drescher family have cared for and enhanced it over the last 30 years, which made it possible for thousands of others to experience its unique and powerful healing qualities. The Dreschers were supported by a group of 9 forest families, half of them were US-based, who shared their passion for the land and their commitment to its protection. And in December, the land began the process of transitioning back to the Mi'kmaq people under the Illinois Education Center. Windhorse will become a place of learning, healing, and gathering. It will be a place to connect with Mother Nature, to learn about culture, language, ecology, health, science, and to heal and grow. Primary focus will align with land-based learning and healing for people of all ages, but especially for children and youth to explore and learn from the land. This ancient forest will be protected forever, and Windhorse will be a place for the Indigenous communities to welcome all who wish to come and learn. The next pictures you'll see, I used the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy in these 5 different areas: ocean wealth, ocean health, ocean equity, ocean knowledge, and ocean finance. And what I just did was I just basically give in each of these sections, you'll see pictures of businesses or projects that we're doing that I've tried to align with those 5 areas. But let's start with ocean and wealth. Gabriel Silboy was born in Waiwama Station. That's where I'm come from. In August 8, 1874. In 1918, Silboy became the first elected Grand Chief. 10 years later, in 1929, Silboy, after being found carrying muskrat pelts, was arrested for hunting out of season and convicted. He invoked treaty rights dating to 1752 as his defense during the court case of subsequent appeal, both of which he lost. In 86, the Supreme Court of Canada overturned the decision to Mr. Silboy's case. In the case of Simon versus the Queen, the court found that the appellant, James Simon of Nova Scotia, a registered Mi'kmaq, had the right to hunt for food. Simon had relied for his defense on the same peace and friendship treaty as Silboy. In 1993, after catching and selling eels near Antigonish, Nova Scotia, Donald Marshall Jr. was convicted on charges of fishing out of season and without a license. That began a 6-year legal battle over First Nations treaty rights that went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. In a landmark ruling in 1999, the court upheld fishing and hunting rights that the Crown had granted the Mi'kmaq Nation in a treaty signed in 1760 and 61. That's basically the start of our fishery, what it is today. In 1999, Atlantic First Nations had approximately $4 million in gross annual revenues. That's all the 35 communities. Today, that number is well over $200 million. First Nations have numerous licenses, vessels, aquaculture operations, and processing plants contributing to sustainable ocean food. In December, you would have heard about Clearwater Seafoods. Incorporated announced to be sold to Premium Brands Holdings Corporation and the Mi'kmaq First Nation Coalition in a transaction valued at roughly $1 billion. Financing transformation. Here I got a quote from Misael Joe, Chief Misael Joe. He's from Mi'kmaq. Building on our successful aquaculture and fisheries business, plus our ocean stewardship efforts through our involvement with the MAMCA, this is a wonderful opportunity to advance Mi'kmaq participate in the new ocean economy. Our relationship with the Horizon Maritime has been built over time, and it is clear that our values match in a way that will benefit our community, our industry, our province, and be an example for our country. We're also getting into new ocean industries. Smart Protective Coatings Project, applying a graphene-based marine coating into vessels to improve fuel efficiency and biodiversity impacts. I think it's one of the businesses here. Yep. Project Orca, demonstrating a low-carbon diesel fuel on the Polar Prince and Chinook to reduce GHG emissions in marine fleets. Sea Robotics. Mi'kmaq Horizon is the exclusive representative of Sea Robotics in Canada and will be offering the novel and environmentally friendly Seabud and Sea Disc technology for species harvesting and benthic management. Under ocean health, what I put here is two organizations that we work with, the Mi'kmaq Conservation Group and the Unama'ki Institute of Natural Resources. Right there, they're working on data collection to monitor progress of migration of salmon from Stewiacke to the Bay of Fundy. As an example of ocean knowledge, I have Mi'kmaq elder Kerry Prosper there. Kerry is the elder in residence at St. FX University. Kerry is well known and influential member of our nation. He's best known for his traditional eel harvesting knowledge and teachings. You can check him out on YouTube too, as well. In 2008, the Fishery Business Development Team was established under Ulnaweg, under what is called the Atlantic Integrated Commercial Fisheries Initiative, ACFI, through a partnership arrangement between Ulnaweg and the Atlantic Policy Congress of First Nation Chiefs. The BDT provides business support services to all Atlantic First Nation communities in the form of technical expertise, professional advice, business plan development, project planning, implementation, and business operational support. Success of the program has led to the expansion of the federal initiative on the Pacific Coast and northern regions, both modeled on the Atlantic program. And I believe they service 46 communities now, I think. Little picture of Cove there. Cove has been a great partner for us. And we have an office there specifically to house a few entrepreneurs to give them the space where they can connect and network as well. One of our projects with Cove and Upswing Solutions is called Sangwanishk. Sangwanishk means those that love the water. It connects Indigenous-owned businesses and ocean technology companies in Atlantic Canada to work in partnerships to improve the sustainability of our oceans and our communities. There's 3 projects there with Meobogek Horizon that you saw, Smuggins Maritime Safety and Security, and 3D Wave Design. Sangwanishk, there's 4 things that we hope to do is to build partnerships with ocean technology companies to boost competitiveness, enhance innovation, collaboration, and knowledge sharing for Indigenous and non-Indigenous ocean businesses alike, offer training and business development support to Indigenous ocean businesses, and to mobilize action to deliver measurable progress against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Picture of our future engineer there. It's part of the pre-collegiate program under working on an underwater ROV project there under a NSHRC grant, I believe. This is a partnership with the P-Tech program with Eskasoni School and the Mi'kmaq Economic Benefits Office out in Member 2. Gain, hopefully, future engineers. And here's Smuggins Maritime Safety and Security, Adam Kennedy. Adam's an entrepreneur and a very spirited individual. He's actually at Cove, has his own vessel there. And he's developing a prototype electric RHIB, which stands for Rigid Hulled Inflatable Boat, by incorporating an electric power source and battery bank to one of its 19-foot vessels. I just wanted to provide really those pictures and give you a highlight of what we do. And there's a lot of stuff that we do with the, I could have given you a lot of pictures of smiling kids and videos and stuff. And but what I wanted to highlight, because I didn't show them, is that we want them in your sector, right? We want them in your classes. And I looked at, I believe it's the Engineers Association of Canada, and they had a study there, that a report that talked about statistics back for 2016, which said there was only a 1% participation rate of Indigenous students in engineering. 1% seems to be the running number for us. Access to capital, we're at 1%. Access to philanthropy, we're at 1%. Now schools, we're only at 1% with a 4 or 5% population. So we have a system, as you know, colonization, a residential school, centralization has created a lot of systemic barriers for us. And you're in that system right now. But what I hear is engineers like to break systems, right? So I'm asking you to break those systems, break them apart and re-engineer them so that our kids get to be participants in engineering. And hopefully in 5-10 years, we'll see those kids sitting here and listening to not me, hopefully, but more others like me up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and look forward to the opportunity to discuss some of those ideas with you at a later time. You mentioned Cove, and of course, that's a nice segue into our next speaker, Melanie, who is the Executive Director at Cove. CEO, sorry.
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
Thank you, John, for the invitation to be here this morning, and thank you to the Academy for choosing this as your topic for this conference, because obviously you can tell by the invited speakers today we're passionate about it, and we really believe that it's time for change and that all of us have to start focusing on the transition to a bluer economy. I'm the CEO of Cove, and I'm fortunate enough to have had a lot of promotional opportunities talking about Cove, and that's because we're very involved in a lot of different activities. And towards the end of my presentation, I'm going to give you more of a snapshot of what we're doing at Cove. The other thing that I wanted to say, I wanted to thank Jim Hanlon, who is the founder of Cove, and he sits amongst you today, and I think is part of the Academy. So we learned about what the blue economy is, but a couple of other things that I want to share with you today. So one is we know more about the moon than we do about the ocean. So roughly about 5 or 7%, depending on what sources you quote, of the ocean has been explored today. So that's a really interesting parallel because we have 80-90% of our goods that are transported on the ocean. So it is a corridor for us being able to obtain consumer products. Over 20%, if not more, of the world's protein is based out of the ocean. And so I could go on and on and on. So I always found it really interesting that yet still there's such a small percentage of the ocean that we know about. And the fact that I was presented the facts about the ocean, that 2/3 of our Earth is covered by ocean. Yet when we talk about the green economy, very little is the ocean mentioned in the green economy. And I think blue and green are really simultaneous because you can't have a green economy if you're not considering the ocean. And so I think Wendy did a great job of presenting that case, but I think that's something that I would encourage you to think about. And we talked about the blue economy and the definition of the blue economy. And it's more than just the commercial shipping that we have. It's more than just the oil and gas that we currently practice today and the extraction that we do, or mineral development. It's about looking at those type of activities in a more holistic way. And I think that's where the complexity of the blue economy is really sits, is how do we evolve our way of doing into something that's more inclusive of different communities, of different perspectives, of different technologies. And so I think that's really the challenge for all engineers, is to, when we think about the blue economy, it's not the business as usual paradigm, it is a changing paradigm of being more innovative on how we're moving forward. And I know any engineer, including myself, who I'm an engineer as well, loves a hard challenge. So I think this is the challenge that we all have, is how do we go forward in this complexity of trying to bring about new ways of doing things with our ocean. So when I think about, there are a lot of activities happening in the ocean. You've already named them, but some of the burning platforms are really the pillars that I think are really interesting, that are either today well experienced, or there's a lot of innovation still required. So I think about ocean renewable energy. So that's offshore wind, different forms of offshore wind, offshore renewables in the form of ocean thermal energy conversion, OTEC, or tidal, which you've heard about before and is practiced at DAL and activities happening in Nova Scotia. So there's a big area there of R&D that's required to increase production, different types of ways to do environmental assessments or survey or perform operation and maintenance on these type of devices that are in the water. And I think that's where a lot of innovation engineering is required. The next area is on ocean-based food. So aquaculture is one of the fastest growing food system that we have on our planet. So it's growing at a rate of about roughly 7% per year. And so aquaculture is going to continue to evolve, and that requires a lot of innovations around different types of ways to monitor health of different systems. There's also using different feeds and so on. There's also a lot of work in manufactured seafood that's used to feed many of the different species that are part of that aquaculture ecosystem. And then from a fishing point of view, there's different types of vessels that are evolving. So we talk about lowering fuels, lowering emissions in different vessels. So a lot of innovations there. Or fishing in different ways. So different types of trawling nets that have that reduce the bycatch that's experienced, or ropeless traps that allow for disentanglement of different types of mammals. The other area is around ocean biotech, which is about developing new products, which can include dietary supplements, food additives for medicinal purposes. And so I'll give you an example of that in just a minute. And then there's a whole bucket of next generation, and that's really around, we talked about carbon and the storage of carbon in the ocean, looking at different types of sensors, robotics, and so on, that are about looking at the ocean in a different way, operating in the ocean in a different way. And I guess before that I said ocean transport. So I think ocean transport may be a little bit more self-explanatory, but we need to decarbonize how our ships are operating in the ocean, become more efficient. Efficient can look like being more efficient in terms of logistics, for example, and having shorter routes and so on. A couple of interesting things that you may have seen in the press, and I just named this because there are big organizations like the X Prize, which is a philanthropic-led organization, and they're putting a lot of money into what are the moonshot ideas in the world that we really start changing the dial on climate change. And most recently, there was a company that's actually originated out of Ontario, but they also are now here in Nova Scotia, and they're working with DAL, called Planetary Tech, that was awarded $1 million for their idea in essentially adding, using mine tailings and using the alkaline from the mine tailings that they process and putting that into the ocean to adjust pH levels to absorb more carbon. So those are kind of the moonshot ideas that are in the market today that are really interesting. Other things like, this is a did you know, but Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute in the US is, along with the Ocean Frontier Institute, are world leaders in scientific information. They've done a lot of exploration in the ocean. And so they've identified in hydrothermal vents these enzymes that can detect different viruses. And so one of those enzymes was used for the detection of COVID, for example. So there's a lot of things that we still don't know, but have different applications from a research point of view and a human societal point of view. So in all of these applications, really, there are a lot of problems and there's a lot of complexity and things like access to capital. So you talked about access to capital. It's a challenging one. And Wendy mentioned the SDG goals. So I have a stat here and it's according to KPMG, but in order to fully implement SDG 14, it's estimated that we need about 200 billion per year Canadian in able to fulfill that goal in itself. So clearly we're quite at a disconnect to be able to get there and be able to, as global entities, to be able to meet that ambition. And the other thing that's really interesting with the ocean, and I'm sure you'll hear from others today, is the complexity around the regulatory nature of the ocean. So different jurisdictions and so on. So there's not only just the technical, the scientific challenges and so on, there's also a big governmental piece to it and public policy piece because it's a highly regulated environment. So you've heard a little bit about COVE already, and this is sort of my last couple of slides on who we are. So we're a global innovation hub and industry-led center that is really focused on the commercialization of ocean tech. And we look at it across 5 different verticals: defense and security, fisheries and aquaculture, marine tourism, marine transportation, and offshore energy. And we have different programs and so on and services. You saw our facility here, that this is our facility that we have. We have almost a kilometer essentially of wharfage that's highly used. We're probably one of the second or third, I'd say, busiest sites in the Halifax Harbor. And I look at Irving here because I know you've got a very busy site. But yeah, we're a very busy site. We have 70 resident businesses that are on site that come from all over Canada, in fact, all over the world. And they're all focused on solving these big issues and making a business out of it. So we're also involved in different ventures. We're very much involved in building the talent pool. So we work with a lot of different groups, including DAL and Supernova, for example, and others around the country, really, to advance our workforce from youth to mid-career professionals to be able to be part of this blue economy. And then we also have this piece where we like to collaborate. At least we try to collaborate. And that's really important, either through our programs or through the different ventures that we're involved in. But that's really important. And one of the areas that we do is we invest in different shared infrastructure to help solve these big problems that we have and help to commercialize. And so one project that we did last year was called Stella Mars. And we designed, built the subsea sensor platform, and I'd say probably in 7 months to launch. So it was a very quick process. And the interesting thing about this platform was that, one, we won the Lieutenant Governor's Award for Excellence in Engineering this year because of this platform. And the reason I think we won it was because, one, we did it in a very short period of time from design to deployment. 2, we worked with 30 different businesses, and you think, I would never do that. Would never do it again. But that's really how we have to approach these big challenges, is that we have to work with a lot of different minds in order to solve things or to accelerate the pace at which we're innovating. And so with these different businesses, we worked on the design. The design is not overly unique, but what's unique is that there are about 16 to 18 different sensors on this platform, some that that we purchased to form a baseline data pool, and then others that are companies that are using this platform to do demonstration of their tech, to do market development, testing, and so on. And so we're about 3-4 months under sort of commercial operations, and we retrieve and deploy this platform on a quarterly basis. So we've got a little bit more experience on it, and the idea around how you collaborate with this type of platform. And the other thing that I think that it's important to remember from an engineering point of view is this doesn't happen. It started with engineers, but it didn't finish with engineers. And so we've got people on the finance side, marketing, and so on that are involved with developing something like this. So I think that was also part of our award and our nomination for it. So With that being said, I'm going to share just a quick video. It's a little bit dated. It was the launch that we did last May, but it just gives you a sense for those that are not used to operating in the ocean, what happens, and it's very short, it's less than a minute, but just what happens in terms of the level of activity that you have for deploying something like this when it's only 100 meters offshore. So imagine deploying in the Atlantic. So that date was last year. But anyhow, the other thing now that we're progressing with this type of platform is we have so many different data streams that we house within cloud infrastructure and different users. And we're working with DeepSense, which is an AI machine learning organization housed at Dell, to understand what kind of predictive analytics or any kind of analytics can be done from these different data streams. And so that's really, really unique in the ocean space, especially from a commercial / non-commercial point of view. And lastly, I'll just end on this point. I think, the other point that I'd like to drive home is that we need to be innovating in a different way. And that goes everything from the science, the tech, the new business models, if we have any opportunity to be successful at that SDG 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. And I think you can see one of the strengths of Halifax and indeed Atlantic Canada is the interconnectivity and the collaboration that happens between all the players in the ocean tech sector. That's been very important to our success. And that brings us then to Rich Billard, our last speaker.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I got a few slides here to go through, and I get a little bit of a personal connection as well, both from my previous role. Before I joined Irving, I was the CEO of the Atlantic Canada Aerospace and Defense Association, so we had a very strong relationship with Cove, Jim Hanlon, and others, and as well as Luwag and the First Nation. So I've got some experience outside of the defense sector. So today I'm here representing Irving Shipbuilding, and we are involved in probably the biggest ever procurement in Canadian history. So first I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, some background on the NSS, which is the National Shipbuilding Strategy, the role of the military in securing the blue ocean economy, which I think is something that we need to understand and act as an enabler, and how ISI is contributing to the blue ocean economy. So 33 years ago, I was started my 20-year naval career out in Esquimalt as part of the training squadron. Like I say, 30 years and about 30 pounds ago as well. Time is not always kind to us. But after leaving the Navy, I joined an aerospace and defense company, Canadian public company, MTA Systems Limited. Followed that by running the Atlantic Canada Aerospace and Defense Industry Association. And then just over 2.5 years ago, I joined Irving Shipbuilding as the System Engineering Director. So what is it that ISI does? ISI has three primary roles or business lines. First one is the maintenance and repair of the current fleet. So all of the ships, the Halifax class, et cetera, will go through refits on a regular basis. We currently have Ville de Quebec in there now, and HMC's Halifax is due to come in later this year. As well, as part of the NSS, we were selected as the primary contractor to build the Arctic and Offshore Patrol Ship, AOPS. And then last and definitely not least, the largest program is the Canadian Surface Combatant Program. So we are currently in the preliminary design stage of the Canadian Surface Combatant Program, and will be, I guess, entering the full stage production later in a few years' time. So a little background on the National Shipbuilding Strategy. So formerly known as the NSPS, or National Shipbuilding Procurement Strategy, the NSS was started by the Canadian government back in 2010 as an opportunity to recapitalize the Canadian fleet. As one of the primary objectives for the NSS is to build all large vessels in Canada. It was going to be a monumental undertaking. It took 2 years to select the shipyards. Vancouver on the west coast, building a non-combatant package, and Irving Shipyards here in Halifax, building the combatant package. So one key aspect of the program that needs to be understood and is of particular interest to this group, in particular to many of the non-for-profits, is the value proposition. So the value proposition associated with the major combatant package means that for every dollar spent in Canada on the program by a foreign entity, right, in foreign offshore, needs to be recapitalized in Canada. And as well, there's another aspect under the umbrella agreement where Irving Shipbuilding has to donate 0.5% of the overall contract value into marine industry. And as a result of which, and we'll see later on, COA is one of the recipients of that contribution. So the role of the military in securing the blue economy. So the Canada has a defense policy, strong, secure, and engaged, whereby the objective is to be strong at home, secure in North America, and engaged in the world. In order to do that, you need to have a globally deployable defense force. So Canada right now has 12 Halifax-class frigates and 10 Marine Coastal Defense vessels, and we are in the process of building the Arctic and Offshore Patrol Ship, as well as Joint Support Ship on the West Coast. In practical terms, what does this mean? It means that the Navy, Canadian Navy, as an arm of the foreign policy for the Canadian government, is able to help project and secure the lines of communication and the support lines by which all of the goods and services travel on the ocean. So right now, that's happening in in the Eastern European area under Operation Reassurance, which is a NATO-led operation. Canada has 2 frigates currently deployed there, and just over this past weekend, 2 other MCDVs, HMCS Summerside and HMCS Kingston, departed for the region to support operations as well. So specifically, how is ISI contributing to the blue ocean economy? So at the moment, we are building the 6 Harry DeWolf Arctic and Offshore Patrol ships, and we are in negotiations right now to build 2 more for the Coast Guard. So these Arctic and Offshore Patrol ships will enable near year-round coverage of the Arctic and the near Arctic for both the Canadian military and eventually the Coast Guard. But then the larger program is the recapitalization of the major warships for Canada, which is the Canadian Surface Combatant Program. So for the past 10 years since the Irving Shipbuilding was awarded the contract, we've been growing as a company. It's taken recapitalization of both the shipyard itself and continued to grow as both a shipbuilder and a ship designer. So while Irving traces its roots back to the Halifax dockyard graving dock in, I believe, in the late 1800s, we're really just a startup when it comes to building a modern warship of the size and scope that we're on our way to do. So where are we? So we have a couple of locations. Marine Fabricators here in Dartmouth. So that's where the raw steel is initially starts its route. Then we have the Halifax Shipyard, which is probably the most familiar to everybody here or anybody that's traveled either through the harbor or along Barrington Street. We also have two other facilities in Dartmouth. So Woodside Industries, where a number of manufacturing and fabrication takes place. That's either too complex or unique for the ship for the lines within the shipyard itself. And the Blue Nose building where I work. So the Blue Nose building is really our center of excellence at the moment for the Canadian Surface Combatant program. We have probably about 400 people there at the moment from an Irving perspective, but we also have BEA Industries is taking up residence there, and the Department of National Defense also has offices there. So from an economic impact perspective, the program has generated over $4.75 billion in economic impact across the country. Now, these numbers only reflect the work that's been flowed through Irving Shipbuilding to date. So C-SPAN Industries will also have a similar view and economic impact. You'll notice that, of course, a lot of it's generated and concentrated here in Atlantic Canada. So some specific examples of the value proposition. So in terms of overall, I guess, flow through, it's not just the direct and indirect jobs associated with the shipbuilding that we're doing. It's the flow down of the work across the economy. So, you know, as is stated here, the money that's generated throughout the economy, over $9.5 billion according to the report. And is sometimes referred to as a multiplier effect, whereby the money spent on shipbuilding is proliferates throughout the economy. So some specific examples of Irving Shipbuildings and what we've been working on to date. So as I mentioned, part of a value proposition was to spend a certain percentage of the contract on the marine industry. That's so far that's equates to over $41 million. 26.5 of that is planned already to date, with nearly $15 million remaining. And probably one of the biggest single commitments was to Cove to the tune of $10 million over a 10-year period. So the takeaway from this is that there's still more to come. We're only talking about the initial contract. The larger contract, right now we're just under the design contract from a CAE perspective. The build contract is the one that's coming in the next few years, and we'll have another tranche of money that we're going to have to work with the local industry and local nonprofits to make sure it's spent appropriately. From an employment perspective, Irving Shipbuilding has hired over 2,000 employees over the past 7 years. Number of 316 trades, 185 graduated to Red Seal, with a number of apprentices coming from underrepresented groups. We also take a number of co-op students. So within my section alone, I probably have about 8 or 9 co-ops every year. And more than $19 million has been invested over the past 6 years internally for skills and training, leadership, and safety awareness. And at the moment, we're also in the process of developing a new apprenticeship program specifically to support the work that will be done for CAE. So right now, the apprentices that we have in the yard are all supporting the AAPS program. We're going to bring on more specifically to support the build program for the Canadian Surface Combatant. So keeping the theme, you know, we're hiring. We have a number of open positions, and we're only forecasting more growth into the future. Well, the workforce will continue to grow until probably the mid-2030s, when we expect to have 3 Canadian Surface Combatants in the yard in various states of construction, along with some undergoing tests and trials. And keeping in mind that this workforce projection only reflects that from Irving Shipbuilding perspective. We have 5 major subcontractors, many of whom are located here locally: Ultra Marine Systems, MDA, Lockheed Martin, and L3 Communications, as well as BAE, are all major contributors, and will also be growing their engineering workforce as we move forward. So that brings me to what I foresee is our biggest challenge and current challenge, and that's finding the people. So I've had a number of positions open within Irving Shipbuilding from an engineering perspective for over a year, just unable to find the correct skill match for what's required for our program. It's a very complex program. We talk about complexity. It's the equivalent to or very similar to putting a man on the moon. We are trying to build for the first time in Canada a hybrid design whereby the parent design is a underwater warfare variant, and we're trying to squeeze in a very new and complex combat systems program designed for Canada. So the one advantage we have at the moment is the longevity of our program. We will be working to build and deliver these ships for the next 40 years. We have junior engineers that have started the program that have the opportunity to finish their career at Irving Shipbuilding, still building and working on and developing this program. So I guess my plea, if I could have one, is that you make sure that as a career choice, an option is the Irving Shipbuilding family or any of our subcontractors, because it's going to take the entirety of the nation to be able to build and support this vessel into the future.
Thank you, Rich, and clearly we need to talk. So I'd like to thank our 4 keynote presenters today. It's been an amazing opening session for us. We do have a schedule we need to keep to, so unfortunately we won't have time for questions. And so I'd like to call upon Ray Gozine, saw Ray earlier, to begin the next session. Thank you very much, and there'll be opportunity during lunch and whatnot for people to converse, except with Wendy, who has to leave. Thank you very much, Wendy. Oh, okay.